There comes a point in every believer's life where principles, connections, and even prayers seem not to produce the expected results. You quote scripture, you fast, you speak in tongues, but the doors remain shut, the answers remain silent, and the heavens seem like brass. What do you do when the God you serve is not speaking? What do you do when your life looks nothing like the prophecies spoken over you? This is not just a test of strength. It is a test of trust. Trusting God is one of the most misunderstood dimensions of spiritual maturity. It is easy to say, "I trust you," when there is money in the account, when the doors are opening, when the answers are swift. But the true evidence of trust is when nothing is working, and yet your heart remains at rest. It is when the storm rages, but your hands are lifted in worship. It is when the pain is intense, but your confession is unshaken. This is not emotionalism. This is spiritual stability. Today, I want to show you why learning to trust God is not optional. It is survival. It is not weakness. It is wisdom. And until you learn to trust, you will keep fighting battles that were meant to be won through surrender. Trusting God is a journey, not a destination. It is a progressive unveiling of a life that has been surrendered, broken, and yielded to the dealings of the Spirit. Trust is not a switch that is flipped on during convenience. It is a fruit that is cultivated through encounters, experiences, and divine seasons. The realm of trust is one that is forged in the secret place, where explanations are scarce but presence is abundant. Many believers want to trust God instantly, like a one-time decision, yet trust is revealed in layers. It starts when God calls you, and you say yes. Then He leads you into a path you do not understand, and expects you to keep saying yes even when nothing is making sense. In the school of trust, there are no shortcuts. God will walk you through seasons that offend your mind to reveal what is truly in your heart. You cannot truly say you trust God until you have walked with Him long enough to see His nature beyond His acts. It is easy to say, "I trust God," when the doors are opening, when the bank account is full, when men are clapping and favor is flowing. But trust is tested in contradiction. When He promised a throne and yet you find yourself in a prison, it is trust that keeps you. When you are anointed yet ignored, when you are gifted yet confined, when you have prayed yet the answer tarries, it is trust that becomes the anchor for your soul. In the journey of trust, God may delay the manifestation just to teach you how to walk by faith and not by sight. He will keep silent not to punish you, but to mature you. The delay becomes a classroom, and every unanswered prayer a textbook in the school of the Spirit. You learn that trust is not just believing that God will come through. It is believing that He is good even if He doesn't. Trust demands a heart that is trained to see beyond what is happening to what God is doing. You begin to discern divine patterns. You realize that before every lifting there is a testing. Before every manifestation there is a preparation. And that preparation often looks like a contradiction to the promise. But in the realm of trust, contradiction is not a sign of abandonment. It is a sign of divine interest. God is pruning, shaping, building, teaching you how to rely not on your wisdom, but on His voice. When you look at the lives of those God has truly used, you will find that He first enrolled them into this journey of trust. Not one of them was handed greatness without a price. They trusted Him through wilderness seasons, painful betrayals, years of obscurity, and yet they held on, not because they had full understanding, but because they had a revelation of His nature. This journey is not for the emotional. It is not for the impulsive. It is for those who have died to their own agenda and said, "Even if I walk through the valley, I will fear no evil." Trust is a journey, and God is not in a hurry, because He is more interested in what you are becoming than what you are receiving. God's silence is not God's absence. That is a revelation that matures men in the Spirit. It takes discernment to know that just because heaven is quiet does not mean heaven is empty. The dealings of God are not always accompanied by noise and fireworks. Sometimes the proof that God is near is the silence that provokes your trust. In the realm of the Spirit, silence is not neglect. It is a language. It is how God stretches you beyond the realm of emotion into the realm of conviction. The greatest tests in the life of a believer are not when God speaks clearly, but when he hides and watches if you will still obey, still believe, still wait. There are times when you will fast, pray, cry, and yet all you receive is silence. No angel appears, no prophetic word comes, no scripture jumps out, no dream brings clarity, and yet, in that very season, your destiny is being shaped more than ever. It is in that silence that your foundations are tested. Do you believe because of results, or do you believe because of revelation? That silence becomes a mirror that reveals the true condition of your heart. Will you still lift your hands in worship when there is no breakthrough? Will you still declare his faithfulness when the storm refuses to cease? That is where trust is built, not when God is loud, but when God is silent. In silence, pride dies, ambition dies, self-confidence dies. Your strategies fail, your connections become helpless, and it is there, in the stillness of heaven, that God becomes your only option. You learn to walk with him by faith and not by signs. You learn to interpret his silence as his wisdom. Many times, God hides because he wants you to search. He withdraws because he wants to draw you deeper. He does not always want to answer you at the surface. He wants to lure you into the deeper waters where your hunger and dependence are intensified. Silence becomes the voice of intimacy. It is in silence that God watches your posture. Will you murmur like Israel, or will you wait like David? Will you build golden calves, or will you build altars? The silence of God is a refining fire. It purifies your motives. It corrects your expectations. It humbles your assumptions. It teaches you that he is not just the God who speaks. He is the God who watches, the God who observes, the God who hides and reveals himself only to the desperate. Sometimes the most anointed seasons of your life will feel the most barren. You are praying, sowing, giving, serving, but there is no voice, no dream, no encounter. But don't be deceived. In that quietness, you are growing. In that stillness, you are being transformed. Heaven may be silent, but heaven is not absent. There is a difference, and it takes men of depth to discern that difference and remain loyal even when there are no visible rewards. That's when God is closest. God's integrity is the foundation of trust. It is not what you feel that builds trust. It is what you know about him. Trusting God is not anchored on your situation. It is rooted in his nature. The highest dimension of faith is not believing that God can. It is believing that God cannot lie. It is the revelation that his throne is built upon righteousness and justice, that he is too faithful to fail, too consistent to change, too holy to deceive. The stability of your heart in turbulent times is directly tied to your revelation of his integrity. God does not need to prove himself to be trusted. His existence is not validated by your understanding. His credibility is not up for debate. He is not trying to earn your trust by performing tricks. He wants you to trust him because of who he is, not just because of what he does. It is dangerous to build trust on miracles alone, because when the miracles delay, your heart will drift. But when your trust is built on his nature, you can go through fire and still sing. You can walk through waters and still worship. His integrity is proven in history. From generation to generation, he has never failed. He told Noah to build an ark, and rain came. He told Abraham he would be a father, and Isaac came. He told Israel he would deliver them, and Pharaoh bowed. He told Mary she would carry the Messiah, and the Word became flesh. Over and over again, he has kept his word, not always on man's schedule, but always with perfection. This is the confidence we must carry, that heaven and earth may pass away, but his word will never return to him void. If God said it, he meant it. If he promised it, he will do it. He does not speak emotionally. He is not like men who speak today and change tomorrow. His words are not suggestions. They are laws in the Spirit. When God says, I will help you, it is not encouragement. It is a decree. When he says, you will rise, it is not motivation. It is a verdict sealed by his own integrity. You can build your destiny on his word. You can stake your life on his character. You can lay down your ambitions, your timelines, your fears, and rest, not because you understand everything, but because you know the one who holds everything. His integrity is so powerful that even creation responds to it. The Red Sea parted because God said, go forward. The sun stood still because God honored Joshua's voice. Ravens fed a prophet because God commanded them to. That is the power of a God who cannot lie. The problem is not God's integrity. The problem is men's perception. We are too quick to doubt, too easily offended, too emotionally reactive. But when you rise above emotions and anchor your trust in the unchanging nature of God, you will walk through life with peace. You will look at storms and smile. You will hear bad news and remain unshaken. Because your heart is fixed, trusting not in outcomes, but in the integrity of the one who promised. Trust requires letting go of control. The real test of faith is not just the ability to believe. It is the willingness to surrender. The pride of man is in his desire to be in charge, to predict outcomes, to manipulate seasons, to understand every step before taking it. But in the school of the Spirit, control must be surrendered before trust can be born. God will always lead you to a place where your plans no longer work, where your wisdom becomes insufficient, where your connections fail you, so that he alone becomes your anchor and guide. The nature of God's leading will never be comfortable to the flesh. He does not consult your logic before initiating his dealings. When God called Abraham, he did not give him the full map. He said, go to a land I will show you. That will is what offends the mind of those who love control. God does not show the whole picture. He reveals destiny in phases, and the temptation is always to take matters into your own hands when it seems like his pace is too slow or his path too strange. But trust demands that you drop your agenda and follow him, even when it does not make sense. There is something about divine timing that requires your total dependence. God may take you through longer routes, through seasons that seem irrelevant, through delays that challenge your patience, just to break your reliance on your own strength. The one who truly trusts is the one who has no alternative. You don't truly trust until your Isaac is on the altar. You don't truly trust until you can sleep in the boat during a storm, not because the storm has ceased, but because you know who is in the boat with you. Letting go of control means embracing seasons of obscurity. It means you don't force open doors that God has shut. It means you don't promote yourself when God is still training you. It means you allow him to decide when, where, and how your lifting will come. The moment you insist on your own way, you step into restlessness. You open the door for anxiety, comparison, and frustration. But the man who has yielded control to God is at peace, even in uncertainty. Because his trust is not in plans, it is in a person. When you surrender control, you allow God to be God. You allow him to choose your battles. You allow him to write your story. You stop manipulating people and situations, and you begin to lean into his wisdom. Some of the greatest pain in life comes from trying to hold on to what God is asking you to release. Control is heavy. It drains your spirit and blinds your discernment. But surrender lifts that weight. Surrender opens you to divine instructions. Surrender positions you for supernatural rest. The posture of trust is not one of striving. It is one of yielding. Not my will, but yours be done. Not my timeline, but yours. Not my strength, but yours. That is where true trust begins, when the throne of your heart has only one king. Every act of trust is an invitation for divine intervention. God does not force himself into the affairs of men. He responds to faith, and faith is expressed through trust. When a man lays down his strength and says, "Lord, I cannot, but you can," heaven begins to move. Trust is a signal in the realm of the Spirit. It is the language that touches the heart of God and draws him into situations where men have acknowledged their insufficiency and his sovereignty. It is not weakness to trust. It is proof that you understand how the supernatural works. The kingdom is not powered by human skill alone. It is governed by divine partnership, and the bridge between man's limitation and God's power is trust. There are things that will never shift in your life until God steps in. There are doors too heavy for your hands to open, walls too high for your strength to climb, and battles too deep for your wisdom to win. But when trust becomes your posture, you activate the power of the unseen. Trust becomes the license for divine participation. As long as you are still trying to do it by yourself, heaven will wait. But when you finally let go and say, "Take over," then the one who never fails arises. Scripture is filled with stories of people who saw the hand of God simply because they trusted. When the 3 Hebrew boys refused to bow, they trusted, not knowing whether God would deliver them or allow them to burn. Their trust was not based on outcome. It was based on conviction. And when they stepped into the fire, the 4th man appeared. He did not show up when they protested. He showed up when they trusted. That is how trust works. It summons the presence of God into impossible places. There are realms of intervention you will never see until you pass the test of trust. The Red Sea did not part when Israel stood in fear. It parted when Moses lifted the rod in obedience and trust. The loaves and fish did not multiply while the disciples were calculating how many people were hungry. It multiplied when Jesus blessed it and gave thanks. Divine intervention is often disguised as simple instructions, and only those who trust can obey without full clarity. You may not understand how, but you trust who, and when you move in trust, the Spirit of God begins to orchestrate what no man can manufacture. Trust becomes the altar upon which miracles are born. It becomes the gate through which help from above invades the earth. You do not need to have it all figured out. You only need to believe that He is able, and when that trust is genuine, pure, childlike, yielded, then angels are dispatched, resources are released, doors are opened, and impossible situations are turned around. Not because of effort, but because of trust, because heaven always responds to a heart that has placed its full weight on the integrity and ability of God. Spiritual maturity is proven by trust. The true measure of your growth in the Spirit is not how well you can preach, how loudly you can pray, or how frequently you see visions. It is your ability to remain stable, calm, and unshaken when life makes no sense. Spiritual maturity is seen in how you respond when God is silent, when answers delay, and when the process is prolonged. Immaturity screams in panic at the first sign of discomfort, but a mature spirit knows how to be still and trust, even when the heavens appear closed. A believer can speak in tongues and still not trust God. A man can serve faithfully in church, give sacrificially, and still be ruled by fear when tested. Maturity is not just about religious activity. It is about posture. It is the posture of a heart that says, "I know whom I have believed." It is not shaken by temporary loss or earthly instability because it is anchored in the realm of eternal truth. That kind of posture is not gifted. It is cultivated through dealings. God raises mature men by walking them through seasons where the only thing left to do is trust. He strips away every external prop, every backup plan, every familiar voice, until you learn to lean only on Him. Maturity is knowing how to interpret the silence of God correctly. It is refusing to accuse God when prayers are unanswered. It is remaining faithful when the applause stops. It is worshiping when the atmosphere is dry, and obeying when the instruction is costly. These are not actions of emotion, they are responses born from trust, and this trust does not come overnight. It comes from fire, from tears, from wilderness seasons, from nights where your pillow is soaked with questions, but your lips still declare, God is faithful. You see, a child demands to know everything, but a son trusts the father even in the dark. A child throws tantrums when results delay, but a son waits because he understands process. There is a realm you enter in the spirit where you no longer react to circumstances, you discern them. You are not moved by what you see because you know what has been spoken. That stability, that stillness, that quiet confidence in the face of storms is the evidence that your roots have gone deep. Spiritual maturity means God can trust you with silence and you won't backslide. He can delay the manifestation and you'll still worship. He can hide the next step and you'll still move forward. You are not driven by sensation. You are governed by conviction. That is when trust becomes your nature, not just your response. You trust Him when He speaks, and you trust Him when He's quiet. You trust Him in the light, and you trust Him in the dark. That's the kind of vessel heaven can use. A man who is not controlled by what he sees, but by who he knows. That man will shake nations, not because he is gifted, but because he is stable, grounded, unshaken, and mature through trust. Beloved, what God is doing in your life is bigger than your eyes can see and deeper than your mind can comprehend. This is not the time to panic. This is not the time to manipulate outcomes. This is the time to trust. Trust Him when it hurts. Trust Him when it delays. Trust Him when you don't understand, because He is too faithful to fail and too intentional to waste your pain. Every season, every silence, every detour is a part of a divine script written before time began. When you learn to trust God, you position yourself for a kind of rest that no situation can shake. You become unbreakable, unmovable, unstoppable, because your anchor is not in what you see, but in who He is. Learn to trust God. This is the foundation of greatness, the gateway to miracles, and the womb that births destiny. Thank you for listening with an open heart. May this word take deep root within you and bear fruit in every season. As you journey with God, may your trust in Him become unshakable. May your path shine brighter and your testimony be undeniable. I speak peace into your storms, strength into your spirit, and light into your destiny. You will not fail. You will not fall. You will finish strong. Go in grace. Go in power. Go in trust. Your season has come. God bless you richly.